Far beyond the familiar stars of humanity's mapped space, a strange silence stretched across the void. There were no sounds here, no familiar planets, no light except for distant suns and the faint glimmer of distant stars. Yet in that emptiness, something stirred that would soon catch the attention of one of the galaxy's most powerful fleets. The Zorith Dominion was a race that had ruled the outer systems for centuries. Their ships were vast, shining with countless lights, bristling with weapons and carrying armies trained to conquer anything that dared cross their path. These aliens had grown arrogant over the years. They had never faced humans before, and they believed humans were weak, insignificant, and unworthy of their notice. But a single human ship had appeared where it was not expected, far smaller than any Zorith vessel, far older in design, and lacking the massive weapons that decorated the alien ships. It floated alone in the dark. From the perspective of the alien commanders, it looked fragile, almost laughable. One commander laughed aloud, a strange sound that reverberated through the metal halls of their flagship. "Is that the human ship? That is a toy. We could destroy it with a thought," they said. Others joined in, laughter filling the communications channels. Inside the human ship, known simply as Earth's Vanguard, everything was quiet. The vessel was dark, sleek, and unassuming. 20 crew members moved calmly through the narrow corridors, checking instruments and preparing systems. Their faces were tense, but their movements were precise. This was no ordinary mission, and every one of them knew that the universe was about to watch a moment that could change everything. The human crew had orders, and they knew them well. The instructions were clear. Do not provoke. Observe. Make no aggressive moves unless absolutely necessary. The aliens were powerful, and the crew could not match them in a straight fight. What the aliens did not know was that the Vanguard was not just a ship. It was a prototype. Built in secrecy over decades, it carried technology that could rewrite the rules of combat. At a glance, it seemed ordinary, but its systems were capable of things the galaxy had not yet imagined. As the human ship drifted silently, sensors picked up hundreds of approaching alien vessels. The fleet was enormous, stretching as far as the eyes of human instruments could detect. Thousands of ships, each one larger than most human space stations, were converging, surrounding the Vanguard. The humans watched carefully, their eyes scanning every blip and signal. They had trained for this moment, but nothing could fully prepare anyone for the scale of the alien fleet. Meanwhile, the aliens continued to mock. They sent taunts over open channels, their voices dripping with arrogance. "Foolish humans, have you come to beg for mercy?" one shouted. "Do you think your tiny ship can survive us?" Another added, "We will crush you before you can, even blink. Run back to your planet while you still can." The mocking tone was loud, confident, and meant to intimidate. Yet inside the Vanguard, there was no fear. The crew remained calm. They knew that fear could make mistakes, and mistakes could cost lives. The commander of the ship, a seasoned veteran, moved quietly through the bridge, checking instruments and confirming readiness. Their hands hovered over the controls, not in haste, but in precise anticipation. The human crew also knew one secret. The Vanguard's AI, called the Aegis Protocol, had already begun its work. It scanned the fleet, calculated trajectories, and prepared the ship's hidden systems. Most of the alien fleet had no idea that anything unusual was happening. To them, they were surrounded by a simple human vessel, one that they could destroy in seconds. The aliens had underestimated the humans, and they did so with the confidence of a species that had never faced a real challenge. As the Vanguard drifted closer to the center of the alien formation, tension grew. The dark space around the human ship seemed thicker, heavier, almost aware. On board the Vanguard, crew members exchanged quiet glances. No one spoke loudly. They did not need to. Their training had taught them that every second mattered, and that calm was more powerful than panic. Outside, the alien fleet continued its maneuvers. Thousands of lights blinked as weapon systems warmed, shields readied, and ships adjusted position. Each Zorith commander assumed that this encounter would be nothing more than a brief exercise, a moment to humiliate a weak species. They imagined destroying the human ship quickly, as a demonstration of their strength to the galaxy. But even as they laughed, and unease began to creep into their communications. Small anomalies appeared in their readings, tiny disruptions that they did not understand. Sensors flickered. Signals became distorted. The aliens dismissed it at first, thinking it was minor interference caused by the ship's stealth technology. Inside the Vanguard, however, the crew was calm because they understood what the anomalies were. The Aegis protocol was beginning to engage. Its systems were subtle but powerful, manipulating the electromagnetic fields around the ship to confuse the alien sensors. What looked like weakness to the aliens was actually strength, hidden beneath an unassuming exterior. The crew continued their observation, noting the positions and movements of every alien vessel. They recorded patterns, analyzed weapon systems, and prepared for the moment when they might be forced to defend themselves. But even as they worked, there was a quiet confidence in the room. They had trained for situations far worse than this. They had faced simulations designed to push them to the edge of endurance, and they had survived. Back in the alien fleet, some of the younger commanders began to notice that something was off. Their targeting systems were not locking correctly, and communications between ships were interrupted by strange pulses. Still, they laughed and insisted that it was nothing. "It cannot be more than a glitch," they said. "We will crush them easily." Their pride blinded them to the possibility that they were about to encounter something beyond their comprehension. As the human ship floated among the giants of the Zoreth fleet, there was a strange quiet that spread through its corridors. No alarms, no rushing movements, just the hum of the ship's engines and the soft glow of screens and instruments. Each crew member knew the gravity of the situation. They were outnumbered, but not outmatched. They had something that the aliens did not: preparedness, discipline, and a secret power that had been hidden for decades. The alien commanders continued their mocking, unaware of how dangerous their arrogance had become. "Look at them," one said. "They pretend to be brave, pathetic." Another added, "This will be over in moments. Nothing will remain of them." They were confident, sure that victory was already theirs. Yet the universe has a way of humbling even the proudest of empires. The human crew watched as the alien fleet tightened its formation. They could see every ship, every weapon, every movement. The silence on the Vanguard was deliberate, a calm before the storm. They had no intention of starting a battle unless forced, but if the aliens attacked, they knew that the human ship could turn the tide in ways the galaxy had never seen before. For now, the Vanguard drifted silently, alone in the darkness, surrounded by enemies who did not know what they were about to face. The alien laughter filled the void, a sound that echoed with confidence and arrogance. But aboard the human ship, there was a quiet strength, an unspoken understanding that this moment was only the beginning. The humans were ready, and the universe would soon see that appearances could be deceiving. And so, the stage was set. A tiny human ship, overlooked and underestimated, faced the might of an empire that believed it could be destroyed without effort. The crew of the Vanguard knew that every second counted, and that the universe was about to witness something extraordinary. In the endless silence of space, the first moves were made, invisible but powerful, and the galaxy was about to change forever. The alien fleet hovered like a storm over the human ship. Thousands of massive vessels glimmered in the darkness, their weapon systems alive and humming. Every alien commander believed that the human ship posed no real threat. To them, it was a single outdated explorer, insignificant and fragile. The arrogance among the Zoreth officers was palpable. They communicated over wide channels, mocking the human crew openly. "Is this it?" one commander sneered, a metallic, echoing voice that carried through the alien fleet. "Is this all humanity can send? We could destroy it with a single strike, and still have time for lunch." "Pathetic," another added. "They think they can survive against thousands of our ships. Let them try. Their bravery will be their doom." The laughter spread through the alien fleet, filling every communication channel. For the Zoreth, this was not a battle, it was entertainment. They believed that victory was already theirs, and that humanity's fate had been sealed the moment the lone ship crossed their borders. Inside the human ship, the atmosphere was completely different. The crew moved quietly, calmly, checking sensors, monitoring the alien fleet, and preparing their systems. No one panicked. No one spoke loudly. The hum of the ship's engines and the soft glow of the control panels were the only sounds. Each crew member understood the importance of discipline. Fear had no place here. The commander of the Vanguard moved slowly across the bridge, his eyes scanning every readout, every blip, every flicker on the displays. He did not rush, because there was no need. Speed without control was dangerous, especially in a situation like this. Precision and patience were far more important. "We have to remember," he said softly, addressing the crew but not raising his voice. "We are outnumbered. They expect fear. They expect hesitation. We cannot give them either. We watch, we wait, and we act only when necessary." Every crew member nodded. They had trained for countless scenarios, many of them far worse than this. They had simulated battles against overwhelming odds, learning how to survive, how to maneuver, and how to exploit weaknesses. But simulations were one thing. Real life was another. The alien fleet before them was not a simulation. These were real, deadly ships, piloted by experienced officers who had conquered countless civilizations. Despite this, the humans felt no panic. Instead, they felt a quiet confidence. They knew something that the aliens did not. The Vanguard was no ordinary ship. Its systems were advanced, beyond what the Zorith could detect. It carried technologies developed in secret, tested quietly, over decades. Most of the galaxy had no knowledge of this ship's capabilities. The aliens continued to mock, assuming their words would intimidate the humans. "We could wipe you out before you even realize we are here," one of the Zorethum officers said. "Do you beg for mercy, humans? Or are you foolish enough to fight?" Inside the Vanguard, the crew heard the words, but they did not respond. Instead, they watched the alien fleet carefully, noting patterns in their movement, weapon positioning, and communication. Every signal was being recorded, every motion analyzed. Even the smallest anomaly mattered. The AI system of the ship, the Aegis protocol, was already at work. Its algorithms quietly manipulated the electromagnetic field around the Vanguard, creating tiny disturbances that the alien sensors could not explain. Their targeting systems, which had been flawless in previous battles, began to experience errors, small at first, then more pronounced. The aliens noticed the disruptions and tried to correct them, but the more they tried, the worse the readings became. "What is happening?" one alien commander shouted, frustration creeping into their voice. "Our sensors are failing. This cannot be." "It's impossible," another added. "We are surrounded by thousands of ships. One small human vessel cannot interfere with us this way." The human crew remained calm. They understood that this was exactly what the AI was designed to do: confuse the enemy, disrupt their coordination, and buy precious time. Every second counted. Every miscalculation on the alien side could be the difference between survival and destruction. The human commander gave quiet instructions, precise and deliberate. "Keep monitoring. Do not respond unless ordered. Let them underestimate us. Let them make mistakes." The crew continued to follow these orders with perfect discipline. They observed, calculated, and waited. The alien fleet moved with confidence, tightening around the Vanguard, preparing to strike. From their perspective, it was only a matter of time before the human ship was destroyed. Yet the calm inside the Vanguard contrasted sharply with the arrogance outside. The crew understood that appearances could be deceiving. What seemed like weakness was actually strength hidden in plain sight. The aliens could see only what they wanted to see: a small, fragile ship. But beneath the surface, the Vanguard's systems were awakening, ready to respond if necessary. The tension in space was palpable. Thousands of alien ships surrounded the human vessel, yet none of them dared fire first. Their confidence was beginning to waver, though they did not yet realize it. Small malfunctions continued to appear in their systems, subtle disruptions that grew more pronounced with each passing second. Inside the Vanguard, the crew noted these anomalies and adjusted their own systems accordingly. The AI had created subtle electromagnetic distortions that made the alien fleet's weapons and communications unreliable. It was a silent battle, one that the aliens could not see and did not understand. The crew moved with quiet efficiency, adjusting power levels, monitoring shields, and preparing the ship's hidden systems. They did not need to rush. Patience was their ally. They understood that the right moment to act would come and they would be ready. The alien commanders, still confident, continued their taunts. "Your ship is insignificant," one shouted. "You are surrounded by thousands of our vessels. How long do you think you can last?" Inside the human ship, the crew listened but did not react. They had heard these words many times before, in simulations, in drills, and in training. Mockery was a tool of intimidation, but it had no effect on those who were prepared. The AI continued its work, quietly manipulating the fields around the ship, creating more errors in the alien fleet's sensors. The humans watched the fleet, carefully, observing every reaction, every adjustment. They were learning about the enemy in real time, gaining knowledge that would be critical in the moments to come. Despite the growing anomalies, the aliens remained unaware of the true nature of the human ship. They believed their superiority was absolute. They had never faced humans in combat and assumed that one ship could never pose a real threat. Their arrogance blinded them to the possibility that they were dealing with a vessel far beyond their understanding. The human commander moved to the observation deck, watching the alien fleet spread across the void. He did not feel fear, only focus. Every movement, every calculation, every decision mattered. The crew trusted him and he trusted them. Together, they formed a calm, disciplined unit, ready to face the unknown. The alien laughter continued, but it was beginning to sound hollow. Small doubts crept into the minds of some officers as their systems continued to fail, in subtle ways they could not explain. They tightened their formations, tried to recalibrate sensors, and prepared to fire, but the errors persisted. Inside the human ship, the crew remained silent but alert. They knew the moment to act had not yet arrived. For now, observation and preparation were more important than aggression. Every second spent studying the enemy increased their chances of survival. As the minutes passed, the tension in the void grew. The alien fleet, confident at first, began to realize that something was not right. Yet they had no idea what they were dealing with. They could see only a small human ship, calm and unassuming, floating silently among the giants of their armada. The human crew continued to monitor every detail, every signal, every movement. They were ready. They knew that when the moment came, they would act with precision, skill, and a power that the aliens could not have imagined. In that silence, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. A small human ship faced thousands of alien vessels, unarmed to their eyes but prepared in ways the universe had never seen. The arrogance of the Zorith would soon meet the quiet strength of humanity, and the consequences of that encounter would echo far beyond that empty stretch of space. And so the scene was set. The aliens laughed, believing victory was assured. The humans waited, disciplined, calm, and ready. What the galaxy did not yet know was that this simple, unassuming vessel was about to change everything, not by force of numbers, but by the quiet power hidden within. The first contact was complete. The tension was unbearable. And the story of this encounter had only just begun. Humanity's patience, preparation, and secret strength would soon become the deciding factors in a moment that no one, not even the Zorith, could have predicted. The silence of space was broken only by the soft hum of the human ship's engines. For a long time, nothing had happened. The alien fleet hovered around the vanguard, their confidence unshaken, their weapons ready. They believed the humans were waiting to surrender or at most to run. But the crew of the vanguard knew better. They had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Every second of calm had been a preparation for what was coming. Inside the ship, the crew moved quietly but efficiently. Their eyes flicked across instruments, tracking the thousands of alien ships that surrounded them. Every ship had its position, recorded, every weapon system noted. They had learned more about the enemy in minutes than the aliens had learned about them in hours. The AI, the Aegis protocol, continued to hum silently in the background, running calculations that no human mind could follow. It analyzed patterns, predicted responses, and prepared subtle manipulations to create confusion within the enemy fleet. Outside, the Zoreth Dominion's commanders were still laughing. They had been trained to expect fear from every new species they encountered. They had seen other civilizations break under pressure, but humans did not break. They did not flee. They did not panic. The Zoreth did not yet understand what they were facing. "Are they mocking us?" one officer asked, voice sharp with disbelief. "They have done nothing, and yet they stand their ground as if they are fearless." "They are foolish," another replied. "Or arrogant. It makes no difference. They will die just the same." The alien laughter filled the void, a sound that echoed through the metal hulls of their ships. But behind the bravado, unease was beginning to creep in. Their weapons were ready, but their sensors were showing strange anomalies. Small errors at first, barely noticeable, but growing steadily. Some ships reported brief communication failures. Others noted weapon systems misfiring. The alien commanders dismissed it as minor glitches, but the problems continued to multiply. Inside the Vanguard, the crew understood the source immediately. The AI had quietly begun its work, sending imperceptible pulses into the surrounding space. These pulses interfered with the alien sensors, created false readings, and subtly scrambled the targeting systems. To the aliens, it seemed as though their own ships were malfunctioning. The humans watched, silently satisfied, as the first cracks in the alien confidence began to appear. The commander of the Vanguard moved along the bridge, checking each station, confirming that every system was functioning as expected. He did not speak loudly. There was no need for noise or panic. His presence alone brought calm to the crew. Each member understood the importance of focus. One wrong move, one moment of hesitation, could end their mission before it began. Then, something unexpected happened. A small cluster of alien ships suddenly changed course, reacting to a false signal created by the AI. They turned toward an empty area of space, leaving a gap in the formation. Another group followed, responding to a sensor reading that did not exist. Within moments, several sections of the massive fleet were disorganized. The commanders were shouting, confused, unable to understand what was happening. "What is going on with our ships?" one officer demanded. "They are moving incorrectly. Sensors are failing. Why are our weapons misfiring?" The AI had created perfect chaos. The human crew watched as the aliens struggled to regain control. They did not fire. They were unsure. Every moment of hesitation counted, and the humans used it to their advantage. The Vanguard remained still, calm, its presence almost invisible, yet its power quietly influencing the battlefield. The tension was rising. The alien commanders tried to restore order, sending corrections and commands to their fleet. But each attempt was met with further disruption. The more they tried to act, the worse the confusion became. It was as if the human ship had some kind of control over the entire area, bending the battlefield to its will. Inside the Vanguard, the crew felt a mixture of relief and anticipation. They had trained for countless scenarios, but nothing could fully prepare anyone for the moment when their ship's true power began to show. The AI was performing flawlessly, creating opportunities that the humans could exploit when the time was right. Then came the first true test. The alien fleet, frustrated by the ongoing anomalies, decided to attack anyway. Thousands of weapons charged and fired in unison, aiming at the Vanguard. Plasma bolts, energy beams, and missile swarms streaked toward the human ship. To the aliens, it was the moment of inevitable victory. To the humans, it was a signal that the next phase had begun. The Vanguard did not move, at least, not in the way the aliens expected. The ship remained in the center of the incoming fire, its hull seemingly ordinary. But beneath the surface, hidden systems activated. Energy shields flared to life, invisible to the alien sensors, absorbing the attacks. Some weapons passed harmlessly through a field of distorted space, leaving the alien commanders bewildered. Others were deflected, redirected, or neutralized before reaching the ship. The humans moved calmly through the bridge, monitoring the effects. There was no panic, only focus. Every crew member knew their role and performed it perfectly. The commander gave quiet instructions, adjusting power flows and monitoring the AI's calculations. Each second brought new challenges, but the humans were ready for every one of them. The aliens could not understand what was happening. Their weapons, which had been designed to obliterate entire fleets, were failing against a single ship. Systems malfunctioned. Ships collided. Communications were lost. Orders were ignored as chaos spread through the fleet. The commanders were shouting, trying desperately to regain control, but the more they tried, the more their own systems betrayed them. "What is this sorcery?" one officer screamed. "Our weapons are useless. We cannot target the human vessel." "It is impossible," another added. "No single ship can do this. It defies logic. Our fleet should have destroyed them already." The humans did not answer. They did not need to. Every moment of alien confusion strengthened their position. The AI continued to manipulate the environment, creating more false signals, more misfires, more disorder. The human crew observed, recording every detail, preparing for the moment when they would take full control of the battlefield. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the first phase of disruption ended. The alien fleet had been thrown into confusion, but they were still intact. The humans had not fired a single weapon. They had only prepared, observed, and allowed the AI to weaken the enemy's coordination. Yet the impact was already clear. Confidence among the aliens had begun to crack. Their arrogance, once unshakable, now wavered. Some ships hesitated to fire, others questioned orders. For the first time, the humans saw the fear that the aliens had never expected to find in their enemies. The commander of the vanguard walked slowly to the observation window. He looked out at the vast alien fleet, thousands of massive ships now disorganized, vulnerable, and confused. He did not smile, for the battle was not over, but he felt a quiet satisfaction. The first step had been completed perfectly. The humans had survived the initial encounter and had gained the upper hand without even firing a shot. The crew of the vanguard moved with quiet efficiency, checking every system, adjusting shields, monitoring energy levels, and preparing for the next phase. They knew that the real challenge had not yet come. The AI had done its work, but the humans themselves would soon need to act. The aliens had underestimated them, and the humans intended to use that underestimation to its fullest advantage. Outside, the alien commanders struggled to regain control. Their orders were not followed, their weapons misfired, their formations broken. Confusion spread through the fleet like a virus. Some officers began to doubt their own abilities, others questioned the competence of their leaders. The once confident fleet was now vulnerable, exposed and blind to the true nature of the human ship they had mocked. Inside the vanguard, the humans felt a sense of calm. They had not yet fired a shot, yet they had already changed the balance of power. The AI's manipulations had created opportunities, and the humans were ready to take advantage of them when the moment came. Every crew member understood the importance of patience, discipline, and focus. The smallest mistake could still cost them everything, and so the silence returned for a brief moment. The alien fleet, though enormous, was fractured. Its confidence was shattered. Its systems were unreliable. Its commanders were frustrated, angry, and confused. The humans, small in number but united in skill and discipline, waited silently, ready for the next step. The stage had been set. The first act of the confrontation was complete. The humans had survived, observed, and disrupted the enemy without firing a single weapon. The aliens had begun to understand that they had underestimated a species they believed weak, fragile, and insignificant. The universe itself seemed to pause, as if it recognized the significance of this moment. A single human ship, calm and disciplined, had demonstrated the power of preparation, intelligence, and subtle manipulation. The aliens had mocked them, laughed at them, and assumed victory was assured. But the humans had shown that appearances could be deceiving, that patience and strategy were more powerful than sheer numbers. In that endless stretch of space, the next phase of the confrontation was about to begin. The humans were ready. The aliens were unprepared. And the silence of space was broken once again, but this time it was different. The alien fleet, confident only moments ago, had begun to realize something was wrong. Their weapons had misfired, their sensors had betrayed them, and their carefully organized formations were now fractured. Confusion spread from ship to ship. The commanders shouted orders, but their voices were met with further chaos. It was as though the universe itself had turned against them. Inside the human ship, the crew remained calm. They had not yet fired a shot. They had only observed and allowed the AI to manipulate the battlefield. But now, the moment they had been preparing for had arrived. The commander of the vanguard stood on the bridge, quietly watching the alien fleet. He did not rush. There was no need. Every second of calm had been a preparation for this exact moment. "Stand by," he said softly. His voice carried a quiet authority that demanded focus without panic. The crew responded without hesitation. Every hand was on a control, every eye on a screen. They knew what was about to happen, and they trusted each other completely. The alien fleet, still reeling from the subtle disruptions, finally decided to strike. Thousands of weapon systems powered up simultaneously, energy beams and missile volleys arcing toward the vanguard. From the perspective of the aliens, this was the moment of inevitable victory. They believed that no ship could withstand such overwhelming firepower. The humans did not panic. The vanguard remained in the center of the incoming attack, calm and unyielding. Its hull, seemingly ordinary, began to glow faintly as hidden systems powered up. The AI had prepared the shields to absorb, redirect, and neutralize the incoming attacks. The humans watched as the first wave of alien weapons struck, and to the astonishment of the alien fleet, almost none of them landed a direct hit. Some weapons passed harmlessly through invisible fields, others were deflected in controlled bursts. The aliens were stunned. Their eyes widened as systems that should have been flawless failed repeatedly. Some ships collided with each other in confusion, unable to respond in time. Communication channels erupted with panic. The arrogance that had filled the fleet moments ago was replaced by fear and disbelief. "Impossible!" one commander shouted. "How is a single ship surviving our full-strength assault?" The human crew moved with quiet precision. Each adjustment was calculated, deliberate. The AI continued to manipulate energy fields, amplifying the chaos within the alien fleet. It was a silent, invisible battle, one that the humans were winning without a single casualty. The crew knew that patience and observation had brought them to this point. Now it was time for the next step. Suddenly the vanguard vanished from sight. Not a blink or a flicker, but a complete disappearance. The alien fleet searched frantically, scanning the area with every sensor available. Hundreds of ships focused, their attention on the empty space, attempting to locate the human vessel. Their confusion deepened. How could a ship simply vanish in the middle of an attack? Inside the ship, the crew remained composed. They knew exactly where they were. The ship had not moved in a conventional sense. Instead, the AI had manipulated the space around them, creating a distortion that made the ship appear to vanish. To the aliens, it seemed impossible, a trick of the universe itself. Then, just as suddenly, the vanguard reappeared, not at the edge of the fleet, not behind it, but directly in the center of the alien formation. Ships on all sides were within range of its weapons. The humans had waited for this precise moment, using every second to calculate the optimal position for maximum impact. The crew moved as one, coordinating with the AI flawlessly. The first human weapon fired. It was not a conventional beam or missile, but a pulse of energy that spread outward in a controlled wave. Ships that had been confident seconds ago erupted. In bursts of light, their hulls shattered by the precise strike. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The alien fleet, which had believed themselves unstoppable, was thrown into chaos. Ships that had not yet been destroyed attempted to regroup, but the humans had anticipated every movement. Another pulse, another wave of destruction, and more. Alien vessels were reduced to nothing. The battle, which the Zorith had expected to last hours, was now measured in mere seconds. Entire squadrons disintegrated almost instantly. The humans moved efficiently and decisively, their training and preparation amplified by the AI's calculations. The alien commanders were frantic, their voices cracked as they shouted orders that could not be followed. Systems failed, sensors were useless, and their ships collided or exploded as the humans struck with perfect timing. The arrogance and confidence that had defined their species now crumbled under the force of a single ship that they had laughed at only moments before. Inside the Vanguard, the crew watched the destruction calmly. They had trained for this scenario countless times, but seeing it in reality was different. They felt no joy in the destruction of the alien fleet, only focus. Every move was deliberate, every decision calculated. They had survived, yes, but more importantly, they had turned the tide of battle using strategy, preparation, and precision. The AI continued to operate at full capacity, predicting the next moves of any surviving ships, manipulating energy fields, and ensuring that every strike was effective. The humans had created a situation in which the aliens could not fight back effectively. Every countermeasure the Zoreth attempted failed before it could even begin. The battle lasted seconds, but those seconds were enough to destroy what the aliens had believed to be an unstoppable armada. When the last pulse of energy dissipated, silence returned. The human ship floated among the wreckage, intact and unscathed. The aliens had underestimated the humans, and the cost had been catastrophic. The crew of the Vanguard did not celebrate. They remained vigilant, scanning the remnants of the alien fleet and preparing for any further threats. They knew that the universe was vast, and that even though they had won this battle, others might come. Their focus was on survival, strategy, and the understanding that true strength lay not in arrogance but in preparation and intelligence. The surviving alien commanders were stunned into silence. They had faced many enemies before, but never one like this. The human ship had demonstrated capabilities beyond their understanding, and for the first time they realized that humanity could not be dismissed. The arrogance that had once defined them was gone, replaced by fear and a deep, unsettling respect. Inside the Vanguard, the crew understood the magnitude of what had just happened. They had faced a fleet that should have destroyed them in moments, and yet they had prevailed through calm, focus, and the perfect use of their technology. They had proven that strategy, discipline, and intelligence could overcome overwhelming odds. And as the crew looked out at the vast, silent space around them, they knew that this was only the beginning. The universe had witnessed the power of a single human ship, and the message was clear. Humanity, though small and underestimated, was not to be ignored. For now, the Vanguard floated among the wreckage, a lone survivor in a field of destruction. But the crew knew that this victory was more than just survival. It was a demonstration of what humanity could achieve when calm, preparation, and intelligence were applied in perfect harmony. They had faced the impossible and prevailed. The alien fleet was no more, but the message had already spread. Across the stars, civilizations that had once mocked humanity began to reconsider. The humans had shown that even a single ship, properly prepared and strategically deployed, could alter the balance of power. The galaxy would never again take humanity lightly. Inside the ship, the crew remained vigilant, understanding that survival required constant attention. They knew that others might come, others who would challenge them in ways they could not yet imagine. But for this moment, they had survived, they had won, and they had proven something that would be remembered for generations. The battle had lasted seconds, but its impact would be felt for years. The humans had turned what seemed impossible into reality. The aliens who had laughed at a single ship had been destroyed, and the galaxy had taken notice. And aboard the Vanguard, the crew silently prepared for the next challenge, knowing that their training, intelligence, and calm would be the key to whatever lay ahead. They had faced the impossible, and they had triumphed, not through sheer power, but through focus, preparation, and unity. The universe would remember this moment. The humans had arrived, and they had made their presence known in a way that no one could ignore. The battlefield was quiet now. Silence stretched across the void where thousands of alien ships had once moved with confident purpose. Only the human ship remained, floating calmly among the debris, untouched, its hull glinting faintly in the light of distant stars. The crew moved through the corridors with steady efficiency, checking systems, monitoring sensors, and ensuring that no hidden threats remained. They had survived what seemed impossible. They had defeated an entire fleet in moments, and yet their focus never wavered. The first thing the humans did was assess the damage. Debris floated in every direction, fragments of alien ships drifting endlessly through space. Some were massive, remnants of vessels that could have destroyed the Vanguard several times over. Others were smaller, broken fragments, torn apart by the precise energy pulses of the human ship. The crew recorded everything, cataloged positions, and collected data from the wreckage. They knew this information would be crucial. Every piece of alien technology could reveal weaknesses, strategies, or secrets that could be useful in the future. The AI, Aegis Protocol, continued to operate quietly, scanning the debris for residual energy signatures and potential threats. Its calculations ensured that the human ship remained completely safe. Every fragment of alien technology was analyzed and cataloged. The humans had survived through more than courage. They had survived through intelligence, preparation, and the perfect coordination of human skill and advanced technology. Once the immediate danger had passed, the crew turned their attention to communications. The human ship sent a single message across the system, broadcasted in every direction with a signal designed to reach as far as possible. The message was simple but powerful. Humanity does not seek war, but we will end one if forced. The message carried weight, more than the words alone. It was backed by the demonstration of power the aliens had just witnessed. No one could doubt humanity's strength anymore. The signal spread quickly, carried by the debris of the defeated fleet. The alien civilizations that received it were stunned. They had always underestimated humans. They had laughed at a small unarmed ship, only to watch it destroy a fleet that should have been unbeatable. Across distant systems, news of the event began to circulate. Traders, explorers, and outposts received fragments of the broadcast and reports of the battle. Stories spread quickly, growing as they moved from one corner of the galaxy to another. The humans had shown that they could not be ignored. For centuries, many species had dismissed humanity as a minor civilization, barely capable of defending itself. That illusion had been shattered in seconds. Inside the Vanguard, the crew continued their work. They did not celebrate the destruction they had caused. They did not feel triumph in the pain of others. Their focus was on survival, strategy, and learning. They moved through the ship, checking systems, monitoring energy levels, and preparing for any potential threats. Even after such a decisive victory, they knew the galaxy was vast, and other challenges would come. The commander of the ship walked across the bridge, observing the crew and the wreckage outside. His expression was calm, but his mind was alert. He understood the importance of this moment. The humans had demonstrated their power, but they had also sent a message. Humanity was not a species to be underestimated. Across the stars, countless civilizations were now reconsidering their assumptions. Some would approach with respect, others with caution, and some with fear. Prepare long-range sensors, he instructed quietly. We need to know who is listening. We need to know who will come. The crew followed his orders without hesitation. Their movements were precise and coordinated, a well-trained team operating as one. They scanned the surrounding systems, extending their reach to detect signals, fleets, and civilizations that might be aware of the battle. Every reading was noted, every anomaly recorded. They had learned from the encounter that knowledge was as important as power. Understanding the enemy, anticipating movements, and preparing for future threats would be just as crucial as the technology that had saved them today. As they worked, the AI continued to monitor the debris of the alien fleet. It detected remnants of communication systems, energy cores, and navigation technology. Each fragment told a story of how the aliens had fought, how their weapons had been deployed, and how their ships had moved in formation. The humans absorbed this information silently, knowing that understanding their enemy's strategy would be key to avoiding future conflicts or controlling them if necessary. For the first time, the crew allowed themselves a brief moment of reflection. They had faced overwhelming odds and survived. They had witnessed the fragility of even the most confident empire when faced with precision, intelligence, and preparation. The universe had changed in moments, and the humans aboard the Vanguard had been at the center of it. But even as they reflected, they remained vigilant. The galaxy was vast, and other civilizations would surely take note. Some might come in anger, others in curiosity. The humans could not afford to be complacent. Every lesson from this battle would be needed for the challenges ahead. The crew knew that they were now a symbol. Humanity had proven that it could survive the impossible and had announced its presence to the galaxy in a way that could never be ignored. Outside the ship, the debris field of the alien fleet glowed faintly in the light of distant stars. Fragments of alien vessels floated silently, a reminder of what had just occurred. The humans passed through the field cautiously, scanning for any potential threats. They treated the remains with respect, careful not to trigger any hidden devices or traps. Even in victory, prudence was essential. The message broadcast earlier had already begun to have an effect. Across nearby systems, alien civilizations started to take note of the humans' actions. Many who had once dismissed humanity as a minor species now began to reconsider. Some communicated quietly, asking questions, attempting to understand what had happened. Others simply withdrew, wary of challenging a species that had demonstrated such power. The humans had achieved something remarkable. They had changed the perception of an entire galaxy in moments, using not brute force alone but strategy, intelligence, and precision. Inside the Vanguard, the crew knew that their work was far from over. They continued to monitor communications, scan for threats, and maintain the ship's systems. They had survived an impossible battle, but survival alone was not enough. Understanding, preparation, and readiness for what might come next were equally important. The commander looked out at the endless expanse of space, at the silent wreckage that marked the battlefield. He understood the magnitude of what had occurred. Humanity had survived, yes, but it had also sent a powerful message to the galaxy. The Zorith, who had laughed at a single ship, had been destroyed, and civilizations across the stars had begun to pay attention. Yet the humans did not celebrate their power. They understood that arrogance and recklessness could undo everything they had achieved. They remained focused, disciplined, and vigilant. Their victory was not about pride. It was about survival, about showing that intelligence, preparation, and calm could overcome overwhelming odds. As the hours passed, the crew continued to catalog alien technology, monitor communications, and ensure the ship remained safe. Every detail mattered. Every observation was valuable. They had not only survived a battle, but had also gained knowledge that could prevent future conflicts or give them the advantage in the next encounter. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had made its mark. The alien civilizations that had once laughed and underestimated humans now understood that this species was not to be taken lightly. The message had been clear. Humans were capable of surviving the impossible, of turning the tide in moments, and of demonstrating power in ways that no one had anticipated. Inside the ship, the crew remained silent but alert. They had proven their capability, but they also understood the responsibility that came with it. The universe was watching, and humanity's actions would have consequences. The Vanguard floated through space, a lone survivor among the debris, a symbol of intelligence, preparation, and discipline. The humans had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. They had survived, learned, and sent a message to the stars. But most importantly, they had shown that even a small, unassuming ship crewed by a determined and disciplined team could change the course of history. They had proven that strategy and intelligence could overcome even the most powerful forces in the galaxy. And as the crew continued their work, they knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had witnessed the power of humanity, and it would remember it. Other civilizations would now approach with caution, respect, or fear. But the humans aboard the Vanguard were ready. They had survived. They had proven their strength, and they were prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. The message had been sent, the victory secured, and the universe had taken notice. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as survivors, strategists, and symbols of intelligence. The crew of the Vanguard understood the weight of this moment, but they also knew that their journey was far from over. The galaxy had changed in seconds, and the humans aboard the Vanguard were at the center of that change. They had demonstrated that the impossible was possible, that calm, preparation, and the galaxy had not forgotten. The destruction of the alien fleet had spread through systems faster than any message could travel. Traders, explorers, and colonies spoke in hushed tones about the humans who had faced overwhelming odds and survived. A single ship, crewed by a small team, had defeated thousands of vessels. Across the stars, whispers of fear, respect, and awe began to circulate. Humans were no longer a species to be dismissed as weak or inconsequential. Inside the Vanguard, the crew worked quietly but with renewed purpose. They continued to scan the debris of the destroyed fleet, carefully recording every fragment of alien technology and analyzing every signal left behind. Even the smallest piece of data could reveal critical insights into the strategies, weapons, or vulnerabilities of civilizations that might one day challenge them again. The AI Aegis protocol processed these details with flawless precision, predicting potential future threats and offering recommendations for new defenses or tactics. The commander of the ship moved across the bridge, observing the crew at work. Their calm determination, their focus, and their discipline reminded him of what had allowed them to survive the impossible. The battle had lasted only seconds, but its consequences would echo for years. Every civilization in nearby systems now knew that humanity could not be ignored, and the humans aboard the Vanguard had become symbols of a new reality, one where strategy, intelligence, and preparation mattered as much as firepower. "Keep monitoring," the commander said quietly, his voice steady. "We do not know who is listening. We do not know who will come next. Every signal, every anomaly, every system must be tracked." The crew responded without hesitation. They had learned that vigilance was as important as strength. Even as the galaxy reacted to the humans' display of power, there could be those who would attempt to test them, challenge them, or strike at them before they were ready. The Vanguard had survived once, but the galaxy was unpredictable, and survival required constant attention. Beyond the immediate area, alien civilizations had begun to adjust their strategies. Many who had once dismissed humanity were now re-evaluating their assumptions. Some sent delegations, seeking to understand the humans, while others reinforced their own fleets out of caution or fear. Messages of curiosity, respect, and even tentative alliances began to circulate. The humans had not only survived, they had reshaped the perception of their species across the stars. The crew of the Vanguard continued their work. They repaired minor damages, recalibrated systems, and ensured that the ship was ready for anything. Though the battle had ended, the humans knew that preparation never truly stopped. They had learned the value of patience, of observation, and of strategy. These lessons were now ingrained, and they would guide every decision the crew made in the future. The commander approached the observation window and gazed at the wreckage field. Twisted metal and shattered hulls floated silently, remnants of a once mighty fleet. But even in destruction, there was knowledge. Every fragment told a story: how the aliens had fought, what weapons they had deployed, and where their weaknesses had been exposed. The humans absorbed these lessons quietly, understanding that victory was not simply about defeating enemies. It was about learning from them. "Prepare for long-term monitoring," he instructed. "We need to know who is moving, who is building fleets, and who might challenge us. Knowledge is as much a weapon as any beam or pulse." The crew followed orders efficiently. They expanded the ship's sensors, tapped into distant communication networks, and began to gather intelligence on nearby civilizations. The galaxy was vast, and many species would react in unpredictable ways. The humans knew that their survival, and influence depended on staying informed and anticipating challenges before they arrived. As they monitored, the humans received their first direct responses. Some civilizations reached out cautiously, acknowledging the humans' display of power and expressing interest in dialogue. Others remained silent, likely watching from a distance, unsure whether to approach or flee. A few sent signals of hostility, warning humanity not to interfere with their territories. The Vanguard's crew studied these messages carefully, analyzing intentions, language, and the technologies inferred from signal patterns. Every detail mattered. In the midst of this, the AI continued to refine its calculations. It suggested modifications to the ship's defensive and offensive systems, anticipating potential strategies of both friendly and hostile species. The humans reviewed these suggestions carefully, understanding that their strength lay not only in technology but in human judgment, decision-making, and adaptability. Machines could calculate, but humans could anticipate, innovate, and respond to the unexpected in ways no algorithm could predict. Days passed as the crew worked tirelessly. Communication channels were monitored constantly, and new signals were investigated. Every fragment of alien technology collected from the debris field was analyzed, and the crew began to develop prototypes for improved defenses. The humans understood that survival required foresight. Just as the Vanguard had been prepared for the initial ambush, so too must humanity prepare for what might come next. Even as they worked, the psychological effect of the previous battle lingered. Across the galaxy, whispers of awe and fear continued to grow. Humans had demonstrated that even a single ship, operated with precision and intelligence, could change the outcome of a confrontation against an entire fleet. That reality spread through space like wildfire, forcing alien species to reconsider centuries of assumptions about humanity. The commander gathered the senior officers for a meeting. The conversation was quiet, deliberate, and focused entirely on strategy. They discussed potential threats, anticipated reactions, and ways to expand humanity's influence without provoking unnecessary conflict. Every decision was weighed carefully, balancing strength with diplomacy. The humans had learned that survival was not only about winning battles but about controlling outcomes intelligently. "We have changed the galaxy," the commander said, his voice calm but firm. "But our work is not done. Others will watch. Others will test us. Our responsibility is to be ready, to be vigilant, and to ensure that humanity remains secure." The officers nodded, understanding the weight of this responsibility. They had faced an impossible battle and survived. They had proven humanity's strength. But they also knew that the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of unknowns. Survival required constant effort, and the lessons learned from this battle would guide every future decision. Over the following weeks, the Vanguard continued its journey, scanning, observing, and preparing. Every system was maintained meticulously, every signal analyzed, every anomaly investigated. The crew had become more than survivors. They had become guardians, keepers of knowledge, and symbols of humanity's capability. Across the galaxy, the effects of their victory were still unfolding. Some civilizations sent emissaries seeking alliances, offering knowledge, or negotiating trade. Others remained cautious, fortifying fleets and preparing for the possibility of future encounters. And some simply watched silently, unsure how to respond to a species that had defied expectations so dramatically. The humans aboard the Vanguard understood that their influence had grown. They had survived, yes, but more importantly, they had reshaped perceptions. Humanity was no longer a minor player in the galaxy. It had become a force to be acknowledged, respected, and carefully considered. Every civilization now knew that underestimating humans could be catastrophic. Yet the crew did not celebrate. Their victory had been decisive, but they understood that arrogance or complacency could be their undoing. They maintained focus, discipline, and vigilance. Preparation and intelligence had allowed them to survive once, and those same qualities would ensure their survival in the future. As the ship continued its journey, scanning systems and gathering information, the crew reflected on the lessons of the past battle. Courage, yes, had been essential, but it was calm, focus, preparation, and precise execution that had truly won the day. The humans had demonstrated that a small, disciplined team, equipped with intelligence and strategy, could overcome overwhelming odds. That lesson would guide them in every challenge to come. The universe had witnessed the arrival of humanity in a new light. A single ship, a small but determined crew, had shifted the balance of perception across multiple civilizations. Fear, respect, and curiosity replaced dismissal and mockery. The galaxy had learned that humans were capable of surviving the impossible, and that one should never underestimate the power of strategy and intelligence. And aboard the Vanguard, the crew remained vigilant. They had proven their strength, but they knew that survival was a continuous effort. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown dangers, opportunities, and challenges. But humanity had demonstrated its ability to face the impossible, to act decisively, and to change the course of history through focus, preparation, and courage. As the ship drifted silently through the void, the stars stretched endlessly in all directions. The humans aboard the Vanguard understood their place in this vast expanse. They were small in number, yet mighty in capability. They had survived, learned, and demonstrated power, and they were ready for whatever the galaxy might send next. The victory had been decisive, but it was also a beginning. The Huma,